Tossing that it rip. Pull up if it's smoke. Open the pit. Rocks up in her.
Oh, it's delayed.
Chandelier.
Well, it's been doing weird shit lately because
Who that there? Who want the smoke?
I think an update on me and her phone made it so that we have to fucking go through this shit first. And it's live.
We live! Oh shit! Gang gang! Y'all see this is?
This shit, that was free. I had to go get my own. He didn't bring more than one, so.
Yeah. Fuck them. I got mine! Hey! God damn! Massive event! Oh.
What you say?
Who we got in the building, y'all? Who we got in the building today, y'all?
Hey.
You don't know his first last name or social?
Is that fucked up?
You don't know the guy's first name, this piece of shit? We got Miquel in the building.
I thought it was Miquel.
Miquel, we got Miquel in the building. Let's give him a hand clap, y'all. Not Safe Biz. Episode 22. Let me go a quick rundown of who we got so y'all know who we talking to. First of all, his name is Miguel, but it's spelled with a Q, so we'll go into that. It has some historical significance family-wise. But we have electrical engineer from NASA, okay? Name off some of the degrees that you got and from the prospective schools that you got those from.
Sure. So for undergrad, I did a dual degree. I have a bachelor's in mathematics and electrical engineering, and also have a master's in electrical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. So I got my math degree from Bowie State University, electrical engineering degree from Morgan State University. I was in the dual degree program.
I know what that means, right? He's smart.
A math degree, though, that can't be a fun degree to get, right? I mean, how fun is it to, like, I don't even know what kind of math you got to be doing like that advanced, like, yeah, like how far past calculus is this?
So I went all the way up to like abstract algebra, which is basically math with no numbers. So you're doing like proofs, you know what I mean? So just for example, right, 1 + 1 = 2, right? But why, right? That's a simple kind of example. So there's literally proofs for a lot of the popular math equations that we use where you prove out why it's true. Mm-hmm. And so that was probably like the highest level of math that I've taken. But, differential equations, calculus all the way up to Calc 4, And for me, math, so Bowie didn't have an engineering program. Mm. So in order to get to engineering, you had to do a dual degree. And so you could major in like math or physics and kind of take all of your general education requirements at Bowie, and then transfer and take only your engineering classes that they had a relationship with, like University of Maryland, College Park, Morgan, Howard, UMBC, and others. So I chose Morgan because I was ready to come back home at that point. And I basically did all of my, again, general education, math courses and stuff like that at Bowie, stayed on campus, and then transferred to Morgan and just took my electrical engineering courses. And so then when I finished, I got a degree from both universities.
So let's go back to the genesis of it all, because it didn't just all start there, right?
Right.
When did you figure that as a young kid, where not stereotypically, but kids playing ball, running around, when did you feel like, okay, this might be a career path for me? Like I like science and math, and that's the avenue I wanted to take versus maybe basketball or rapping, or maybe some of the other jobs that are important. But like, what made you in your brain say, yo, this is what I want to do, possibly look into?
So it's kind of a deep story for me, but I don't mind sharing this one that I'm sharing. So, I had a lot of adversity in my childhood. Sure, I'll take a shot. Okay, Thank you. So essentially, mother had a drug addiction.
Okay.
It's 5 of us. I'm the oldest. None of us knew our father. Baltimore, typical type of story coming up, right? And so my mother would do stuff like, leave us with the neighbors, disappear for days, sometimes weeks, months, or whatever. And so kind of to sum it up, so social services started getting involved, and me and my siblings were on our way to foster care. But the family kind of stepped in and said, no, we want to keep everybody together. So I ended up with my grandmother, my brother ended up with a friend of the family. It was that type of deal. My sister was gone, etc. So I ended up with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. She always preached to me, education is important. Wow. You can be anything that you want to be. You know what I mean? And she really stayed on my tail. She was a single woman, you know, kind of don't take no shit, you know what I mean? And more than anything, she just encouraged me. So I was always a curious kid. You know, I'm the type to ask the question why, and I would like to understand why. And so that kind of morphed into, eventually I went to Poly for high school.
You went to Poly? Good shit.
Yeah, I went to Poly, graduated class of 03, the best high
03
school in
Poly.
Baltimore. Really,
How's that the best high school in Baltimore?
It's easy. I mean, come on. There's no, I know you're not talking about Sydney or anybody else, but anyway, I'll never forget orientation at Poly. The principal told us, man, to be successful here, you have to study for 3 hours a night. Now, mind you, I was used to getting like straight A's and B's, elementary and middle school, without even hardly trying. So I kind of laughed at it. But he was dead serious. So like my 9th and 10th grade year, I was like a C student. You know what I mean? I went from being like a straight A student to being like a C student at Poly.
Yeah.
So then come junior year, I kind of got focused, and, you know, I started applying myself and stuff like that. And ultimately I went to Bowie. And so at Bowie, I never forget, I came in undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. But I was,
a lot of folk, yeah.
you know, that's okay.
At 19, how could you know what you want to do with the rest of your life?
Exactly. You know, it's a tough proposition. So I was doing really good in all my math classes, and my calculus teacher pulled me up and said, "You're really sharp. I think you should apply for this program called BSOC, which is the Bowie State Satellite Operations and Control Center." And what that was is essentially NASA had some...
Did you go to Bowie?
I did go to Bowie.
Did you have anybody come to you and tell you that you should...
They told me, they was like, "We think you should give this motherfucking shit up. You're funny, you're a nice guy, but Miguel is really busting your ass in math." No, so you
Stop punching people.
Oh, we got my man Steve. We got the background man.
Steve, what's up, man?
Big Swole. Come on, so we got so big now. We got a studio audience. Who's one of our friends and coming? Thank you so much for coming by. Oh yeah, here you go. Oh, we should take care of the guests.
Take care, Steve.
All day. So you were saying one of your teachers came to you. Teachers say, "Hey, look, man, you're bright, you're sharp. We think you can push you. You got more potential."
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Berg, my calculus teacher. So essentially, we had, there were 2 old NASA satellites, Sandpex and Wire. And since they were older, NASA passed them off to Bowie State and said, "Hey, use these satellites to train students on how you send commands up, because, you know, when you launch a satellite, you have to, it's up there collecting science data. You have to collect the science data, and you have to process it. And sometimes, you know, you run into issues and things like that. You have to send up software patches to fix them."
Yep.
So they were training students how to do that. So I kind of got certified as a command controller and mission planner for satellites. And that's when I really started to become interested in NASA specifically, you know. And then from there, I got an internship with NASA, because the same folks that had that fellowship also had a relationship at NASA where you could do an internship that they would pay for. So I spent two summers interning, and I just really liked what I was doing. And so I ultimately chose electrical engineering, and the rest is history.
So you know how satellites work.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
This is undergrad time.
To give you an example of what I mean by that, right? Like, if for some reason, like, a fucking solar event happened and then, like, everything went dark, and the world was full of people like me and Nick, and maybe Steve, but probably not so much Steve.
Yeah, Steve would die. He'd probably die.
Yo, would we be able to recreate, even if we knew like...
Fuck no, bro! What are we gonna do without this
no cell phones, yo. There's no more cell phones. Forget about it. If it's just me and Nick and people like us, it's no more cell phones. It's never getting created again.
We already ate Steve. So y'all, Steve already got 8. He got a lot of meat on here, big dude. So he already ate. Right. We wouldn't eat you though, because you last host of last, humanity's last hope.
Yeah.
A little background information. So I had the pleasure of meeting you and a bunch of the other homies at Bowie. And one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you and have you on the show is because stereotypically, especially in this country, the history of our people, Africans, migrating over to this make America great again place where we're in right now. Stereotypically, you don't fit the cookie cutter mold of what an electrical engineer would be, right? They wouldn't per se correlate the way you dress, maybe the way you take photos, or the people you hang out with, front face value. Right. When I first met you guys, I didn't even know you were that bright. And maybe that plays into He like a Baltimore dude. We all Baltimore. A lot of us came from Baltimore to Bowie, right? If you weren't at Morgan or Harrisburg or something. I didn't know you was that fucking smart. And I think a lot of people out there, irrespective of culture or sexuality, whatever it might be, they don't automatically say young black man from Baltimore. You know, he's not up here. He doesn't come from a wealthy family. He was speaking on your mom and some of the hardships with, you know, custody and drug addiction, the same thing like myself. But you're out here leading an example of what you can do if you put those 3 hours in, if you dedicate yourself to stuff that you like and aren't really pressured by the peer pressure of your friends. Like, oh man, you studying tonight, or you ain't coming out, or you ain't.
You want to be a fucking.
I assume you did a little bit of that too, but your priorities you kept straight and you made sure the work was done. Yeah. And this is how it paid off.
No, I appreciate that. And honestly, you know, staying true to myself, I'm just a regular guy. I tell everybody that, right? You know, I don't think I'm someone so special or anything. I'm blessed, ultimately. So that's most important. But I like to be myself because I want to show others that you can really be whatever you want to be. You know what I mean? If you sit down and you grind and you apply yourself, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. Like, I don't pretend to be Einstein. You know, I bust my ass at Bowie. I remember parties going on in my room. You know, Bowie.
The one I was at. Yeah. And he was fucking working.
Parties going on in your room.
Oh, it was
I used to a four-bedroom apartment, and our room 323 is notorious. We had all types of parties. Everybody liked to come up there, hang out, gamble, do whatever, right? And so my room, I used to call my room the dungeon, because literally I would, when it was time to grind, which was most of the time, I would lock myself in the room and I would study and just put in the work. You know,
how good are these parties though? It's just like
my dude. Hold on, I went on the same floor. You would hear them shits through them old ass jail walls. I don't care about that.
Is it just, you know, your homeboys coming over, they playing 2K and they drinking and smoking and
that was a warm up.
It was all that. Shout out to my man Reezy. He had the 2K room. You have 2K in one room, you know,
fight night, whatever.
Fight night, boxing.
Right. Heavy on that
I mean, everything you could imagine. Like, you know, it got really, really wild. You know what I mean? And so that was good. And I partaked as well, but I always had the mentality of education first. Because when I'll never forget, I first went to Bowie and my grandmother told me, she said, I sacrificed a lot for you. You know what I mean? I didn't have to help. And she didn't mean this in a mean way, but she just said, I didn't have to take this on, but I sacrificed years of my life to give you an opportunity. From this day forward, you have the opportunity to do whatever you want. Once you start college that first day, you can write the book however you want.
She proud of you?
Oh, she's very proud.
What's her full name? You mind giving that out?
Sure. Shout out to Yvonne Brinkley Moulton.
Can we call her Grandma?
Sure.
Grandma,
we appreciate you.
So now he could just fuck the rest of his life away and be some shit. And you've already got the proud card, so you're good now. You can do what you really want to do.
It's time to get
do what you really want to do.
Cocaine, maybe it's a pretty cool drug to try. No, that's dope.
Let's not pass that.
What
do you think about drug use? Not abuse, but like use. Like, should weed be legal? Cocaine, should that be legal? Should people try mushrooms, things like that? What do you think?
I mean, I think it should be legal from the perspective of it's a disproportionate amount of us that end up locked up behind it, right? A lot of folks with like potential and talent and stuff like that, but we come from our circumstances and we end up in the system for different reasons. As far as drug use, you know, I don't judge anybody. I don't partake in it. You know,
None.
I'm not able.
None.
No, I'm not allowed to. You know, what I mean, I'm on a random drug test program, and honestly, I just don't have the interest to. But I don't knock anybody.
You know, some drugs, there's like a 3-hour shelf life in your system. 3 hours later, you know.
Yeah, but see, again, and I don't want to get too deep on it, but I think a part of me, I saw it from the other angle, right? Coming up where it kind of, you know, it tore up.
What?
Real quick, we got Mr. Marvin in here. One of our co-hosts just walked in. Come on, sit down, man. Shit happens. It's all good.
You had a long bender.
It's all good.
Man, my life is in like 3 different places right now.
Listen, you got a baby girl that just popped out the womb.
Yeah, I got.
You know, and she needs a father. So you know how that goes.
Man, she's good. We got her set.
It's
the new house stuff and all that.
I did.
You know what I mean? So I'm
not safe is my man Miquel Moe, NASA electrical engineer.
It's in the building. 64 of them, of bottles, just random ass bottles. We down to the last one.
Mark, quick update, big. How you doing, brother?
What's happening?
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure
All
to
right.
meet you too,
All right.
fam. I got a couple questions that came in the inbox
Okay.
too.
Quick recap. He pretty much went over what brought him the genesis of it all, right? So he was a young kid coming out of a disadvantaged area. You know, the stereotypical or standard what they like to talk about us, right?
Right. Yeah.
But he had a grandmother who was in his life who mentored him and pushed him to be what he is now, a hardworking gentleman, working at NASA electrical engineering. He talked about some of the degrees he got. So anyway, we're fast forward now to his college life and how he was able to Bowie. So I know him from Bowie University.
All right now.
And when I was in there, not getting to the money, not doing the dungeon life, and the parties and all, you know, I love you, white, but it was fat asses everywhere, you know, that type of shit. My man was locking the door. And I mean, listen, it wasn't somehow this motherfucker was still in there.
He said his closing
Going to work.
ratio was like close to 60-70%, so he didn't even have to party like that.
Yeah. He
All he had to do was like, lean out the door like,
Her. He said her. Send her in. Got some homework for him. Got some. So we went over the why, right? And we're now in the stage of college. You're interning. You're getting the experience. You graduate.
Mm-hmm.
That's a medal, right? But at the same time, for a lot of people, it's like, what the fuck do I do from here? I assume the internship helped you as far as the career trajectory going to the next stage. How was it for you?
So one step I kind of skipped was that so after my internship,
Cool. Sweet.
I got pulled in for an interview for what they call a co-op position.
Okay.
And so a co-op position is essentially you finish, you go to school and you work part-time, and then if they like the work that you're doing when you graduate, they can non-competitively hire you, meaning you don't even have to apply.
Oh, nice,
so
nice.
so the work doing the internships helped to get my name on the radar to the point that a branch wanted to take a chance on me with a co-op. So when I transferred to Morgan, I never forget 2007, I started working my co-op position on my birthday, October 18th. Yeah, that was the best birthday gift ever, right?
That is good.
Yeah, and so I did the co-op for 2 years, and I graduated 2009. And once I graduated, they automatically put my paperwork in, and I was a permanent employee.
You know when you get a job, like the first, you the new man, low man on the totem pole, like for NASA, what is like the shit that they make you do?
They want.
When you
Walk through the door.
when they like, we don't know
They
this
make you grab
motherfucker.
coffee and bring it to the control room and shit.
I had to at the beginning.
They
So
make you
it
file
varies.
3,000 files of paperwork and fucking data mine shit.
So it honestly, it varies depending on where you are. But the worst story that I had when I first started there, I'll never forget. I almost quit, honestly, because when we build these circuits, we use a lot of different electrical components, right? If you were to open up your phone or this computer, you'd see a circuit board with electrical components on it. And so these different projects, they buy a bunch of them, right? And they spend in millions of dollars on it because they have to be special for space. You talk about the radiation or the solar flare issue, right?
Yep.
You know, where things can be knocked out. So anyway, we had this huge stock room of old electrical components. It was in like a Freddy Krueger looking basement. I mean, it was like a boiler room and all of that.
Right there, bro.
And the first thing they had me do, they were like, it's like file cabinet, like a room 3 times this size with 6-foot file cabinets stacked all the way around the room and all these electrical components in bags. And they said, we want you to take every bag out and log it in a spreadsheet so we can create this database to know what components we have in case we want to use them in another circuit in the future. So I was literally like,
Hold on, how big is this warehouse?
it's like 3 times the size of this room, and wall to wall file cabinets, some of them running through the middle and all of that, and stacked with, you imagine resistors like this big. So you talking about filling up one file cabinet, taking it out, writing down the part number and the date code and all that stuff, and then someone would put it into a spreadsheet.
Oh, you ain't had to do the spreadsheet part too.
I didn't have to do
You
the
quit
spreadsheet
that
part.
day. You said this.
Yeah.
All that for data entry.
You would have been sitting there like,
The fuck am I doing?
right, the cabinet looking at the book like, you know what? I wasn't built for this shit. I didn't go to school for this.
And I remember I literally almost quit. I'm like, because I had an offer from NOAA, I had an offer from Boeing and Northrop Grumman. You know what I mean?
Get the
like
fuck
I
outta
was
here, yo.
child beta pie. So
Now he just trying to tell us that he the smartest person in the room right now.
Nah, I mean,
Hey, look, do me a favor. Every time you say that, look at him. Look at him. Like I had multiple
You
fucking
said
offers.
Northrop Grumman.
Yeah, you can't even say it right. That's how you know you can get the offer. You didn't even get the offer.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, you know you said it wrong when you niggas say,
But man, so that was starting from the bottom for me, but I'm glad I didn't because honestly it worked out and I ended up expressing with my management at the time how I felt about it and they understood, I'm like, I'm an engineer. I don't have to be doing this type of stuff. And so, they put some things in motion that helped me get to where I am today.
It could have been a test for you to see how willing is he to play ball. Because, regardless of the field, whatever you're doing in life, sometimes you got to do the dirty work. Sometimes they don't have somebody that's going to do that. Are you willing to not only do what you're supposed to do, but take that extra step? And I guess you passed that test too.
Yeah. And I'm that type of person. I worked for Taco Bell in high school. I detailed cars. I had... freshman year of college, I worked for a temp agency, literally stacking up. We had a liquor warehouse. We would stack trucks of liquor boxes all night. So I don't think any job is too small.
Right.
But
that
got to me, what I mean, at the end because I knew what I could be doing. And
how long after you become an engineer, you get a job at NASA? That was your first job, was at NASA?
Mm-hmm. My first professional job.
Yeah, you get a job at NASA. How long between getting the job at NASA and then finding your person you with now and getting married? That's a good reason for this question.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, my wife went to Bowie, but we never used to speak or anything. But I just used to say like, damn, she looked good. But I was just too shy to holler at her, right? So,
was she bougie? You trying to say?
She just was like, I don't know, like in the
she intimidated a little
bit. Yeah, you know what I mean? So when I transferred to Morgan somewhere in 2007, went to a party on Wabash, me and all my homeboys, and she was there with her homegirls. And so I went in for the kill, basically. I went and hollered at her, and of course she had rap for me, you know what I'm saying? But no. So I still want to snipe. And we kind of had been talking ever since that day. And we ended up having my son a couple years later. We ultimately got married in 2014. So we've been together more or less since 2009, excuse me. 2007. Yeah, 2007. That's how long we've been together.
So are you saying that you got out, you went from Taco Bell, detailing cars, and what was the other thing you said?
Temporary agency stacking up liquor trucks.
Stacking liquor trucks. Then you become an electrical engineer for NASA, right?
Yeah.
And you never got to see what the pussy rate would have been going from this thing to the other thing.
I told you, right?
Are you saying to this day you don't have a clue?
You didn't get 10 pussy? That's what I'm saying. He's saying you ain't get Taco Bell pussy.
He definitely got Taco Bell pussy, but he doesn't know what the NASA engineer pussy is.
That was the NASA engineering.
What? What are you talking about?
He went through his internships of different type of boxes and ladies, getting himself ready for the girl he was initially shy for.
Hold on, for that NASA engineering? No, we're talking about this, okay? You know how they say, if you go from a SoundCloud rapper to like a rapper, your pussy rate skyrockets. His pussy rate could have literally skyrocketed, but he doesn't. None of it. He can't tell the stories. Well, maybe you can tell a story, but he's got no stories.
He feels good. Listen.
I'm not trying to stop him from being a good man and a family
man.
Like I'm saying.
It sounds like you saying, hey,
I just wanted to know.
NASA, sir. Maybe you should, see where the universe takes you.
Just in case my son one day says, like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this or this, I could be like, if one of them's NASA engineer or like electrical engineer, I'm like, listen, it's more to that than you think it is. Now you got no statistics for me. So sorry.
I told you to bring your pussy statistics.
One of the questions I had to get to, I have to get to. This is from the fan, bro. This is from the fan.
Okay.
From your little one. So he says I have you to look up to and teach me everything I want to know. He wants to know, who do you look up to now?
Damn, that's a good question. Hold on. When you say from the fan, who's it?
This is from his son, Miquel. Is that
Miquel Moe, yeah.
Miquel.
From your son?
Shout out Miquel Joseph.
You can tell he a little NASA engineer already, right?
Son, don't pay attention to any of the wild questions. That
Yeah.
I mean, pay attention like 10 years.
How old is
He's 9.
Yeah, about 10 years you're gonna be rewinding this.
All right, so look, before we go into the real fuckery, right? You're gonna have to put a disclaimer like, hey, you gonna have to tell your wife, like, look, tell him you're gonna have to cover the ears.
Yeah. Not safe for
It's
ears.
not safe for
Not
you.
safe for ears.
9-year-olds are getting hand jobs nowadays.
All right, shit, right. We're going right past that. Now go back to the question.
All right, so your son has you to look up to at this point in time, but he wants to know, who do you look up to, I guess, for that kind of inspiration?
So, the first obvious answer is my grandmother for reasons I've described, right? I admire that lady so much for so many different reasons. Just a strong, independent person, and let alone to be a African American woman. I also have a mentor at my job, a guy by the name of Mike Johnson. He's a black guy. He's actually the chief technologist for NASA. Anytime you have the word chief in front of your name,
you do.
That's a good thing.
Cheap shit.
And he's
CEO,
really.
same shit.
Chief
He's really not cheap.
He's a chief of all the geeks.
Yeah, but he's really taken to me and mentored me. And remember one of the things he told me, because it was a rough adjustment going into NASA. Honestly, we from Baltimore. We have a certain lingo and stuff like that. No, I'm allergic.
No,
Actually.
okay.
Don't even do that.
Where's the drink at?
Yeah, right. But one of the things he told me that really stuck with me was to always think twice and speak once. You know what I mean? Like whenever you speak, you introduce yourself to the world. So you have to really, really be careful about what you're saying, especially at my job where it's like the stakes are really high.
Oh, of course.
You're building, multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar satellites. If you make a mistake, somebody is going in front of Congress, right? If we launch up a $15 billion satellite and it falls out of the sky, right? There's going to be a congressional hearing. The taxpayer is going to be outraged and all of that. So yeah, Mike Johnson, shout out to him. I'm sure he's not watching. He's not even on social media or anything, but he's one of my role models.
No.
When like my first job, I was like doing heat and air conditioning, and they told me something very similar. It's like measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, they say it that way. You really thought about it. You really taking the time to really take the time to map it out, figure out what it is. I mean, even what you say, you can't. Once it comes out, you can't bring those words back.
That's been my motto in life. I'm always very, very particular.
Get the fuck out of here, yo.
On what I say first. I really make sure that fuck you. So cool. We were talking about mentors, and I feel like we haven't touched on your fraternity brothers. How does that help you? You're part of a
Can we guess what it is first? Yeah.
I don't even know.
You a Mason?
No,
I'm not a part of any fraternities. I'm a part of Tau Beta Pi National Engineering Honor
I thought
Society
it was a fraternity, my bad.
and NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers.
Okay. How have they helped you as far as mentorship, opportunities, networking? Knowing a sense of self-reflection. Sometimes when you're coming into a field where it's maybe not a lot of people that look like you or coming from the same background, now you have a group of built-in individuals who will say, no, it's not just you out here, it's us as well, we're a team. Right. How does that help you?
Yeah, so I've done some mentoring things, not so much through NSBE or Tau Beta Pi. I did do one event for NSBE. They have the Black Engineer of the Year Award.
Nice.
It's and every year they have kind of a job fair with that. So a few years back, they asked me if I would kind of review resumes. So there was like a lot of HBCUs, a lot of folks that are engineering majors and interested in working for NASA. We had a table set up, Boeing, Lockheed, all of the kind of major players.
There he goes again.
So yeah,
he gonna stop.
I like it.
Do me a favor. Real quick. Say those same words again. But look at him when you say it. Just real quick. Say. Look at his face. Yeah, bitch. Yeah, we talking about rims in the air. You know what I'm saying? That's what we talking about. When you trying to rob that? Not that spot.
Boeing, Lockheed. I like it.
Heavy Henderson again.
But I had the opportunity to review resumes, answer questions. A lot of folks that look like me and they're curious, like, man, how do I get in? Like, what do I do? And so that was pretty dope. Shout out to my man Ramon Valentine. He's the track coach for White Knights. He also teaches. He's had me come and speak to some groups of kids a few times. And other than that, it's kind of ad hoc. Just whoever I know that's interested in bettering themselves, maybe become an engineer or not an engineer.
How often do you go to speak to like high schools and middle schools?
It's irregular, you know, so it's not, I'm not on a set, it's whenever someone invites me at the moment because my kids are kind of taking up all of my time, but it's something I want to do more. You know, I definitely do it by invitation. Excuse me. But
so we talked about all camera, and I kind of want to talk about it on the show, not to put you on the spot, but I have a company called Atlas LLC, and like one of the reasons I really want to bring you on here because, and I keep stating it over and over again, you are an example. I mean, everything that your grandma went through, her ancestors, and what you went through to get to this point, irrespective of everything that was thrown at you. I think other kids need to see this. They need to know that it's not just a few options, but you're very personal.
Yeah, you're broad.
We're gonna make sure that we set something up where you can definitely reach out. I'd love to come on, and we'll incorporate the podcast as well. But to get you out there, because I feel like it's almost in vain if more people don't hear about it.
They gotta hear it.
They have to. It's a kid right now that's gonna see you one day.
I wish I would have heard this when I was 14.
We'd have still been chasing pussy.
I mean,
you're like, so what's the pussy ratio? If I wanted to do this or that, my head would be like, oh, he one of these, one of those.
I mean, overall, I mean, with that kind of, I mean, with him just piggybacking off and, you know, riding the coattail, but like you said, there's, you know, you got a lot of kids that grow up and they see, you know, the highlight of, you know, rappers, singers and stuff like that and whatnot. And, you know, for you to be a NASA engineer, they're like, oh, wait a minute, you can be something else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then not to mention with the kind of discipline that it comes with, like any other thing that you want to be great at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you to be that, to be that great. You know what I mean? How does that make you feel as a man, knowing that you can give back more than what you've gotten over your lifetime, and now that you have that to offer to people?
I mean, it's just a blessing. Like when I look back at my life, there were some key people, like key moments that God kind of placed in my life to help me go to the next level. I mentioned Dr. Bird, my math teacher, for example. She was a key person who said, I see something in you. I think you're capable of this. You should look into this, right? Yeah. My grandmother at a key juncture in my childhood, right? Where it's like things could go either way. And there are some others. So I really feel a responsibility to give back in the same way because, you know, you can honestly, and it's not just me from NASA, but anybody who's, you know, has a positive message and is a good role model should always kind of share that with the youth and folks who need to hear it, even the elders, right? You know, it doesn't matter what stage you are in life. So yeah, it makes me feel like, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected, and I'm happy to give back in that way, you know.
So let's close this out, and then we're gonna get to the topics. So not everybody can be LeBron James, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody can be Jimi Hendrix or Drake or you know, Peyton Manning, right?
Right.
Okay. Could Steve be an electrical engineer for NASA? Is it possible, like, when kids coming to you, or even an adult coming to you and saying, like, I really want to do this, like, you might say to them, you know, you can be anything you want to be, but is it true, or is it really that, like, he's not meant to be an electrical engineer? It's not for everybody. Like, you got to have steady hands to be a neurosurgeon, I would assume.
Yeah. So, yes, he could be. And I'll tell you the way my grandmother explained it to me. Now, everything isn't for everybody in terms of personal preference, but my grandmother told me, you know, if someone has done it before, and so being an athlete, you know, that takes kind of a physical gift from God, right? Some of us just don't have the gene pool to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, like you should put it. That's
What about the mental gift from God?
Anything educational. If you don't have a learning disability, if someone has learned it before, why can't you?
What do you think your what's that shit called? It's like a scale that we all measured on for learning.
IQ?
Yeah, IQ. Yeah. What if his IQ is...
Yo, this motherfucker, you ain't know what IQ was?
I can't think of it in a moment.
I thought some big ass journey on...
No.
It's like 2 letters.
If Marvin's IQ is 100 and your IQ is 135,
right,
then could he really... Well, I mean, is an IQ something we can work on?
So there's the thing, right? So there's some guys who they never go to class, they never study, they show up and they get an A, right? And there's some guys who you gotta bust your ass. And I'm probably somewhere halfway in the middle. I took some classes at College Park and I saw folks there who we had these study groups and stuff like that. some guys, they would never even really like show up, right? They weren't even putting in the work. And meanwhile, I'm busting my ass, right? You know, and at the end we had the same result in terms of the grade. But you know, I don't think, again, if you don't have a learning disability, if you bust your ass, you can learn anything. Like, you know, we were literally learning in quantum mechanics and physics, learning Einstein theory, right? This is Einstein theory. This is the stuff that Albert Einstein contributed to the field of physics. And it's like, you know, I was intimidated at the time just off the name, like Einstein. But if you really think about it, if he learned it and he created it, why can't I?
Also,
you know what I mean?
Einstein was known to have a few different learning disabilities. One being dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to use what you can use.
Yeah, even I mean, because I have a little cousin who has autism. Yo, but you put a drum set in front of him, bruh, and I'm telling you,
beating the shit out of
he won't lose a beat for a half an hour, I guarantee.
And everything. We're not trying to belittle anyone who chooses another path of life, right?
Right.
It takes hard work and anything, but we're just trying to provide other options for people to say, listen, you don't have just 1, 2, or 3 options.
Right.
If you're willing to put the hard work in to network and seek out people who can mentor you, and understand that, like you said, it doesn't come easy for everybody. Sometimes you might have to put that work in. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And one last thing, because I know we can really head right into the fucking just a second. I know that you said that you had those you've had those moments where those subtle moments where you kind of knew, like, all right, this is some information that I really have to hold on to. Now, or let's say those opportunities that came by and you knew it was like, all right, this is like do or die right now. How do you solidify? How did you solidify that thought process? Like, oh, all right, I'm nervous as fuck. I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it. How did you solidify that moment?
It's all about what you're motivated by. And for me, I knew what I didn't want to be. You know what I mean? So when I was studying, like, I felt like, number one, I didn't want to let my grandmother down. That was a huge motivating factor. Like, I really took to heart what she did for me. And number two, we all had plenty of examples of what you don't want to be. You know, growing up, my father was an example of that. My mother at the time, who has since become clean and everything, was an example of that. So I kind of took it to the extreme, but it's like, you know, you have to be motivated by something, right? And so
find your motivation.
Find your motivation. It's going to be different for everybody, and that's cool. And, you know, just stick to that. And so that's how I survived those intimidating moments. I'm like, and us as a people, we're so resilient. We don't understand, like, the lessons that we learn in life, for the most part, I'm generalizing, right? We're used to being the underdogs. We're used to having to go harder, work twice as hard, things like that. And so when you get into things like school and stuff like that, just apply the same principles you learned in real life situations to that, you know? And so yeah, that's how I look at it.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Beautiful. All right, cool. Love it. All right, give me your handle real quick. Not safe for ears. Give me your handle again. I guess they want to follow you and maybe ask you more questions about.
Okay, yeah. I'm on Instagram. Keep it _Caleb. KEEPIT_CALEB. On Facebook, Miquel Moe. MIQUEL. Last name Moe. MOE.
Beautiful. Let's get to the topics. Okay, so listen. Not safe for ears. If you don't know what the fuck that means, you obviously can't know. It's not safe for ears.
I hope that moment.
It might not be that bad. It's all right.
You know, the moment that I just brought up about how you solidify those and everything like that, you're gonna have to make sure you solidify these moments right now, because don't forget who's watching.
Right.
Sorry about that.
All right, bring the strippers in. Strippers! Hey, come on, naked strippers, bring them in.
No. All right, so what are these sex acts? Oh Lord. You know.
All right, so I'm gonna, before we do it, so I wrote down some names of some sex acts. You got to tell me
what they would look like.
What this sex act is.
Okay.
All right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah,
that's what I said about it. You crazy. All right. Real quick. Now, safe for ears. Make sure y'all follow us on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Download iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud.
Yep.
Holla at us.
iTunes, we looking great too. We all over the world. You fucking hating Baltimore bitches can hate all you want, but bitch, we in Australia, Japan, England.
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
You should have did that with Japan instead of England.
Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hop on now. Don't try to hit us later like you always do. Fuck you. Hop on now. And all the shit he said.
Hold on, we appreciate
We
it.
love you. We like you too. How old?
And then just keep spreading the word. We appreciate it. All right, so
What are these sex acts?
what are these sex acts? The East Baltimore creek fishing.
What?
That's on one side, but the East Baltimore creek fishing.
What is it?
What sex act?
So like,
Make these
like,
motherfuckers
like
up.
yeah, making them up. So like a Dirty Sanchez, right? Like that's got his thing. What it is, like a
East Baltimore. All right. I think I know what it is. Can I take a guess?
yeah.
Is it eating some dirty pussy or something?
I don't know. I'm not.
Bitch, how you gonna
making-
ask a question you ain't got an answer to?
Yo, it's up to the interpreter to interpret what this would
East
be.
Baltimore creek
Oh, my
fishing,
God.
right? This is what it is. All right, y'all paying attention?
Yeah.
Y'all paying attention?
Oh, you know what it is.
You know
No, I had no idea.
Oh,
He's been.
I've done this before.
All right.
All right, so what you think you're
All right, so
talking
the
about?
East Baltimore creek fishing, right, is when Shorty is like on her neck, right, and her ass is all the way in the air, right, and then you got
Ooh, like a
leg
shrimp.
over top,
Okay.
and you going down in it like this.
Oh, that's what
All right, so to me, East Baltimore creek fishing would be dirty water, so dirty tub water. It's a dirty tub water, and
Just got done bathing in that motherfucker.
it probably smell like that, right? But you gotta eat.
eat meaning pussy. So you eating dirty pussy in a dirty tub.
Who said eat?
Why is it dirty? Why it gotta be dirty pussy?
All right, I eat ass. I just thought that's what it was. I just thought it was.
Little greedy bastard.
So what you think?
think,
East
man?
Baltimore, if you
I'm trying to find out the significance of East
don't
Baltimore.
use your name somebody. Listen, this is where you gotta dumb yourself down.
East Baltimore, though, like, that ain't, but I don't know. So a creek, like you said, I would never swim in the creek. Dirty water. Me and my wife fishing. Just the other day, we were on our way to the pool, and we saw a bunch of people swimming in the creek. Like,
Nah,
you know.
you don't creek fish.
So, and then the fish part, right? So I'm thinking somebody's box doesn't smell too good. You know what I'm saying?
See, y'all thinking too much. I think Marvin had it right?
All right.
I think it's definitely the move Marvin had in a dirty bathwater.
And dirty bag.
So you just finished taking out. You just
in the East Baltimore house, right?
East Baltimore
it don't
town.
gotta be in East Baltimore. It's just it just originated there. It originated there.
Can you do it in West Baltimore?
Time out.
You could do it in West
They ain't got
Chicago.
creeks in West Baltimore though.
Real quick, this is what Denzel is, right? Okay, so you have your typical, all right, let's say you got a burrito, right? Put your meat, your cheese, you put your sauce, right? Then you take the big ass bottle of hot sauce, right? And then you start dripping it over top. Denzel is this. You take the hot sauce, you unscrew the top, and you say, fuck the rest of it.
So all the questions with it, they don't quite make sense. Don't use your answer, bro.
Yeah, don't
You
think
gotta dive into that.
You gotta use
Just
a
you
have a rational thinker.
Yeah, it's a method to the madness. It's a method to the madness.
Enjoy the
We don't really
process.
know it yet.
Yeah.
He might ask you a question there's no answer to.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong.
You might just scratch your head like, I can't even answer that shit. All right, so the next one is the Madison Square Garden falafel truck.
Jesus Christ.
The Madison Square Garden
What's that?
falafel truck.
Help us out with that.
All right, first of all, I'm not even saying.
My man from New York in the court. See, real quick. Give us one real quick.
What is that,
Falafel truck.
You know the hands ain't washed.
Okay, so I'm thinking, vehicle, so there has to be some sort of, I don't know if there's more than one, there's more than 3 people involved in this.
Okay.
But falafels are balls, and I'm thinking hairy. So it has to be something along the lines of, a couple dudes teabagging the shorty.
That's not bad.
That's a good one.
That's what, because falafel
In the truck.
And when you said Madison Square Garden, I'm thinking about maybe 3 or 4 dudes.
Damn,
All right, so
Okay.
teabag.
Let me tell you what I'm
He's
saying.
saying teabag.
Yeah, he's saying teabag.
Hairy teabags. too.
Harry, yeah, you can't.
Falafel, that's Middle Eastern teabagging, right?
This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you're leaving the club. It's 3 a.m. You're hungry, and you also got a chick with you, and y'all both trying to go. You know what I mean? So you got to go somewhere where you can also eat and then also have sex. So
Convenience.
you sneak into a food truck. You make yourself whatever that. Yeah, I mean, it could be a taco truck, could be anything, but it's just named after the place where this first happened, or outside of Madison Square Garden in the falafel truck. You sneak in, you make a taco, you eat that joint, then you go to work. It's just could be just you and her. Don't gotta be 3 people.
See, what disturbs me about it is that you really had, like, you thought about it. You have you just motherfucker find a food truck. Fucking it. Right, you said eat.
Madison is
Close the door after you done.
Madison Square Garden, all those parts of New York, nobody's ever not out. So it's like,
yeah.
you ain't not going just
true.
random.
I never
And then if you do it, you gonna have a whole audience. You know what I mean? Like, everybody else gonna be like, oh, this one is okay. So,
Food truck. Again, it won't be sanitary. So it's the parking lot pimping. You ain't even trying to search. You drunk. You like, yo, what's up, shorty? Right? Right? She had food with her.
Oh,
that's what I'm thinking. Right? She had food with her. Yeah. No C-boy involved. So you probably just raw dogged it. Yeah. And y'all eat the food together.
So that could work. That could
dirty.
work.
First one I saw, and then the next thing like, yo, you fucked that falafel chick? That's what it was.
She had a falafel. She had food. She had
a falafel. And she smelled like falafel. That's what I did. So she had a strong smell to her. It was convenient, and it was right outside. So we called it a falafel food truck.
Damn, that's better.
I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I just don't know what you're doing a good job. Jesus. Y'all creative, yo. You're winging game. Oh, you just said we could be engineers. Yay! We can be engineers. All right, what you think, yo?
Steve outside the camera.
Give him the next one. You go first on the next one.
Oh, you want to answer the flop?
You got one for falafel?
I like y'all answer.
You got the best answer. You can't do better than that one. You go first on the next one, though.
All right, so... Hey, look, I'm going to let everybody know I drink because of Denzel, because his questions, when they come out of this motherfucker, and I start reading them, I'm telling you.
He smokes a lot of weed.
All right, so, the hand-me-down fanny pack. Look, my man, I know what that is. Look, you got to go first, but I got a good one. Oh, I got a good one on that one. You go first.
The hand-me-down, somebody else you know.
He wore that shit out,
right?
The zipper don't work.
And the fanny pack. I don't know, bro.
See, he ain't fuck with them Taco Bell chicks like your dumb ass. He went right to the nasty shit, wifey. He didn't do all that hand-me-down fanny pack shit. He wanted a nice brand new fanny pack. So that's what I think fanny pack is. Where does fanny pack usually sit at?
Right about that?
Fupa area. Right? So it's a tiger claw. No disrespect for all the ladies who birthed us and everything to us, but we riding your asses down. It's a tiger claw, stretch mark, fupa, right? And it kind of hang to one side. You don't wear the shit right in front. So the fupa hangs to one side, right? Right? And it's not like good fat. You got good fat and bad fat. Yeah. It's that sloppy.
I got one for you.
Pancake titty fat.
Oh,
and it's saying right there. So when you smash it, you gotta always just kind of hold it like a dirty cover. You got that cover's always in the way when you eat it. You put the cover over there. So you got the fanny pack.
He hide his face.
But it's always right there. It's always right there. Listen, work smarter now. See, I'm an engineer because he just told me I was. Right? And I ain't gonna work hard. I'm gonna move that little fanny pack to the side.
I got my own one, but who's going next? You?
He said he don't want to do
it, Go ahead,
No, you go. You got it. You got it, yo.
All right, so what era did the fanny pack come out in?
1950?
I don't know.
He just made that shit. No, fuck mine with no 80s. Let's say 80s.
All right, 1980, okay.
1922.
So what it is, right? You got this chick. She's never left the 80s. She still wears a fanny pack.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But she's ran through a lot of dudes. So she's hand-me-down.
Condoms in the fanny pack?
Condoms in the fanny pack.
Oh.
Ready to go.
Oh.
She still got the 80s fanny pack. She still got the 80s gym wear. But she got the zipper in the back.
She's a maniac. One of those?
Yep, for the D.
All right. So she's a hand-me-down.
Yours is a better visual than Nick's, for certain.
You mean to tell me the stomach, the food, but it don't hang to the right side, don't give you a better
visual? He ain't lying.
No, I guess it's an actual fanny. But it's a worn down fanny pack, though. It's the same fanny
pack. It's from the 80s.
Yeah, it's definitely from the 80s. It smells like attic.
Pussy just been ran through and it's been handed down several times. It's
ready
to go.
It smells like an old record collection.
Vinyl, yeah.
Vinyl, yeah.
What else it smell like? What else is in that fanny pack? place. So she got condoms. She ready to go.
She got condoms.
She got condoms.
She got
Like
lube.
A-track.
She got lube.
She got
But
lube.
it's an old crusty
She got
lube.
the little white breath mints, the lifesaver, but not lifesaver.
The original
Yeah,
lifesaver.
the
And then
original.
she's got the little glow in the dark stick, so if you fuck her mouth in the middle of the night,
Oh
that
shit!
goes up.
This guy.
Y'all kind of like this type of thing. Shorty, right? Your chicks don't come dead. I like that. She's like, oh yeah, you can watch me, son. Glow in the dark.
Yeah,
Glow in
he's
the
great.
dark. All right, I like that.
All right.
Damn, your boy hit
You gonna go home like, honey, we gotta talk about this granny cake.
Angel, I had nothing to do with none of that. Just so you know, Rick, I love you, man.
All right, we got rapid fire these last two.
Rapid fire these last two. All right, the spark. What? The spicy. What? Aardvark?
Oh, now you get out of the
The spicy aardvark?
All right,
That's what Skip knows, right?
Skip that one, yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, Kristen wrote.
No, we like, all right, so
We
Kristen,
gotta answer.
Kristen, one of our original and only producers, we gotta show her some love. She said the spicy art
The
bar.
spicy
That's some
aardvark.
white people shit. First of all, what? Art bar? All right, so it's a long nose, right? The long nose. The spicy art bar. Okay, so it's a dildo. It's not heterosexual. It's a lesbian dildo
Okay.
that it wasn't washed after anal. So it's a little spicy.
What?
It's a little spicy, right? So when a girl, she piping, right? And she said, all right, top me off. And you know how, you got like a stinky dick. I ain't never had a stinky dick, but if you have a stinky dick, and then goes to the dick, the girl be like, damn, that's kind of spicy.
Yo, you know you can quit now.
No, nigga, that's a spicy armor. It's a stinky dildo dick.
That's really what you're talking about?
First of all, I ain't even thinking this shit. But I'm thinking it was a used dildo. It's a little spicy. It got a little spice to it. So, wow.
Nah,
Yo, that's a good one. That was. I don't know if I could beat that, yo.
Listen. What I thought of was
We got rapid fire.
like I'm thinking of you eating a chick out, so like you making your tongue as long as possible. You got hot tamales on your tongue. You know.
Oh, okay.
You want to die?
No, listen. Some candy
You've been eating
creates a
this-
warming sensation, just like if you did Listerine strips, or you did
Oh.
Don't do Pop Rocks though, because Pop Rocks will kill.
Oh, he eating pussy with Pop Rocks. Oh,
That's very violent.
you
But
was drunk as shit.
like peppermints, Skittles,
Mouthwash.
Starburst. Yeah, like mouthwash. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying in this case, because it's spicy, you did the hot tamale. You know what I'm saying? You
Okay.
got a hot tamale
You
candy.
just ate it.
So very warm.
I might try that,
like,
yo.
oh shit. Like, yeah.
That's-
Eat the
that's
pussy
a-
with hot tamales.
I think that might be we might.
But the Arbor got a long nose though.
Can we send something to the urban?
Look,
to urban
I got
dictionary?
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real. Let's be real.
Real quick.
Sometimes, you put the tongue all the way up in there just like that.
Yeah.
Just like aardvarks do.
Yeah.
That's how they get to eat what they got to eat, because it's a mound. You can't get into it.
Yeah.
The tongue gets long.
It
Somebody
makes sense,
let you,
yo.
hey, see, what about that spicy Arbor?
Nah, no, they're not.
What you say, Bob? What you say, Bob?
Yo, it's a chick. She's sucking your dick from the back.
Oh, you got folded.
And she just got done having hot sauce, right? On her whatever she's eating, right? So spicy part, long nose. She got a long nose and shit. So while she's sucking your dick from the back, it's tickling your ass.
Take your ass up.
Get out of here, yeah.
Or you just
That's-
ate Taco Bell and your
It's like
burrito spicy.
it's like the anti-version of what Steve said. So I like the hot
So
pepper.
you want to try that? That's what
I don't
you
wanna
want
try that.
You gotta try this last one, yeah. This last one.
All right, that's one.
So the unusually gregarious spaceman.
Oh, okay. Say it again one more time.
The unusually gregarious spaceman.
All right.
Gregarious meaning just like sociable.
The unusual.
Y'all are tough crowd. I mean,
You hit it with that nasty.
I like y'all explanations. I enjoy y'all
He's like,
explanations.
get me in front of the computer.
I'll pass it to y'all.
I got it right here. I got it right here.
All right, go ahead.
I got it right here. Your lady getting ready in the room, right? She got to close the door. Door closed in the shower. She opens the door because you're role playing, right?
Yeah.
You butt naked with a space helmet on. And you say, good morning. That's it. And then you just fuck. And that whole time you fucking, you just think with the nasty thing. You like, Houston, we ready? What they always say? Houston, we clear or some shit? It's all NASA terminology.
Used to have a problem, man.
And then you just, and when you fucking, you just like this. So everything's
Like it's no gravity.
There's no gravity.
My shit.
You know what I'm saying? That's no Martian dick.
I think I got it better.
Yeah, go ahead,
This is what I got. All right, the unusually gregarious spaceman is when we have electrical engineer from NASA come on our show, give Nick a T-shirt. Now Nick can pretend that that he works for NASA.
I like it. Keep going.
Go home and perform that exact sex act.
You getting space dick tonight. Let's do that. Yeah. So we gotta be friendly with it. Is that what it is? Like, you gotta because like I guess people think like people that work for NASA kind of like stick to themselves. You gotta be. As I come to, I say get ready for the Big Bang. The Big Bang! And I just burst celestial fucking.
Oh my God. I don't think I can beat that one, but my thing is, look, what you do is right. You dress the whole room up.
Oh shit!
You dress the whole room up. You put stars and planets and shit.
Oh shit! But the stars ain't stars. It's G's. G's in the pan.
Yo, you know when you were a kid, you had them stars all over your ceiling, yo.
Everybody, real quick. Look at Miquel's face. He's like, what in the fuck? All right, so okay. All right, so make sure all this.
God,
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, and then look, you can still do this. You can bust into the room like like you bouncing on the moon and shit.
Yeah, I like that.
That'd probably be better if you was high as shit.
Yeah, you gotta be high. You gotta be high all of a sudden.
And everything feel like it's like
there you go.
Zero gravity.
And then you gotta do like you gotta spin around like 3 times.
All right, everybody, thank Denzel for that dumbass, wild, lovely topic. That's an icebreaker. We like these icebreakers. Okay.
Yeah. He had some wild shit, but
have
you ever actually watched one of our episodes? I gotta be honest with you. Have you ever?
He watched the first 30 minutes of them.
I watched the last two. Yeah.
The last two. All right now. So just to let you know, shit probably gonna get a lot worse.
Or it might get.
It's not gonna get worse.
All right. It's gonna get worse.
Yeah, because that shit crazy. I don't know. Between that and box questions of last week. All right. So in the star system, hold up. Is that Trappist, scientist? I don't know which one is supposed to go first.
Kristen wrote out.
Okay, discover Earth like exoplanets in the Goldilocks zone where life as we know it can exist.
All right. So
I'm sorry, I got lost in that question.
In star system, this is the name of the star system. TRAPPIST-1. Scientists discovered 7 Earth-like exoplanets in the Goldilocks zone where life as we know it, like how we live here, could possibly be on those planets. And I know that's not a question, but this is just a topic. Like, can we like really go there?
Travel to the next.
The probability
what
of
can
life
we do?
outside intelligent life, or just life period outside of Earth right now.
So certainly something we're looking into. So James Webb, you guys are probably familiar with like Hubble Space Telescope, and James Webb Space Telescope is the next one, JWST. We essentially have these high-powered telescopes that just sit and look out into space. And if you were looking at Earth from a distance, right, you would see the sun, and you would see at certain periods the sun would be blocked because Earth is revolving around the sun. And so what are we looking for with these telescopes? We're looking for stars, and we're looking at their light intensity to see how it changes over time. And so if we see a star, if we notice a star and we see that its light intensity is changing, that may indicate that there are actually planets out there that have a similar type of system that we have here on Earth, right? Where they're depending on a huge star. And so James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, actually, they say it's like a time machine. It will be able to look into the past because the universe is expanding. Yeah. And so it's going to be able to look out something like 15 billion years ago, right? At stars and rocks and things that were formed at that period. And if we know, whenever we notice something that may be a planet, we'll decide how to send maybe like a probing satellite out there and see if it's actually something that could support Earth. So I don't know if there's a question. There's certainly stuff that we're looking at.
By the time, if we send something out to a planet, by the time whatever we send gets there, it's going to be like 2191.
Well, so you know about Voyager? With Voyager is a satellite we launched in like 1977, I believe. And
is it more than one Voyager too?
It's 2 Voyagers. Yeah, they put human DNA. They put songs from the Beatles. They put sounds of people talking and walking and things like that. They put things hoping that aliens would get it and understand that there's Earth, and this is, you know, kind of how life on Earth is. So this thing is not even in our solar system anymore. Something like, you know, 15 light years away, and we still communicate with it. It took like 40 years to get there. They just launched it, and it's still going, right?
So it took 40 years. So we did that 40 years ago, and it's 15 light years away.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't it be 40 light years away?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to say...
A light year doesn't mean a year.
No, it's not a year. It's not.
Yeah,
so what's a light year? Yeah, what's a light year?
That's a good
We want every decimal. We want the dot.
No, a light year is just a measurement. So I don't want to go off on the line. Yeah, I don't want to go off too far in the reserve. That I'm not an astrologist or I'm a double E. But it's just a measurement unit that's related to the speed of light is the way to describe it. You can kind of you can translate it into actual distance, but I don't know the formula off the top of my head to do that. Yeah, but it's not every year.
I do know the formula. It's M equals Taco Bell squared.
Oh my God.
That's Einstein's. That's Einstein's.
Mr. Taco Bell. That's
So you think there's life? There's life?
Fermi paradox. Are you familiar with that?
No, what's that?
All right, so the Fermi paradox is pretty much, now I'm also not a double E or anything E, right? But it's saying that based on the time that we've been here on this earth and have been able to observe the stars, the celestial systems and stuff, that the chance of intelligent life not reaching us or us finding them at this point, it's so high that it hasn't happened yet, that it's most likely not probably going to happen, and we may be just a genetic hiccup as far as like just being lucky. That, you know, whether you know, I don't know where you come from as far as evolution, but that we're just more of an anomaly. And us being a conscious life that is able to observe and make mathematical equations, stuff like that, we might just be the only one based on the time that we haven't found anyone yet. And then we have all these other planets, our exoplanets, and we haven't found anything that most likely we are.
Yeah, but what if we live in an infinite universe? Then if we live in an infinite universe, then there has to be more anomalies.
Right. So, all right, now this is crazy because I'm actually thinking about this movie and I really fucking liked it. But
Alien?
No. I really do like that movie though.
Yeah,
that's like one of my all-time favorites, obviously. But Interstellar. Have you guys seen Interstellar?
Yeah.
Interstellar, where it was infinite, you know, different
string theory, quantum
mechanics, all that. You know what I mean? Everything like that. Mm-hmm. So, they were in different, you know,
multiple.
I'm losing my goddamn
multiple dimension theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Black hole. So how?
So it was like they traveled through the black hole. I mean, the dude traveled through the black hole, and now he has infinite, you know, time lapses in between. You know, him trying to communicate with his daughter to try to, you know, simulate how to simulate gravity so that way they can live on another planet. And then in doing so, he was able to translate that through a computer and get it to his daughter. And then next thing you know, they created another world on a planet by being able to create gravity. So it's like...
He about to be like, yo, that was a movie.
I know, it's a movie, but
that's a movie.
But it is a movie, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about infinite possibilities of, you know, travel and dimensions and, you know what I mean, and stuff like that.
So what's my thought on the whole thing? Is it possible? Yes. Is it what we kind of have imagined in our minds, like what we see in movies when we talk about aliens and stuff like that? I don't think so. I'm not at the pay grade where they would tell me, you know, if we actually found something. But we do these experiments where we look for water on different planets.
Jupiter's moon. What's the name of Jupiter's moon? Shit.
We actually blew up a piece of our moon looking for water, and we have found water. And when you have water, you'll have microorganisms and things like that, things that are living, right? But it's not necessarily those are by definition alien species, but not the way we think, like from Independence,
not like people and shit,
Predator and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't rule it out. I think it's something that we're still trying to understand, and no one really has the answer, to be honest. Like, I realized that once we learn, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Schrodinger's wave equation or not.
I know about Schrodinger's cat.
But
that's a real thing.
What?
Schrodinger's cat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
We're waiting for your fucking explanation.
Everybody's waiting. I'm just curious if it's the same. We'll go back to what he's saying.
Well, So just to kind of explain, it's basically a theory in physics where it's like if you have a particle in an infinite well, no way it should be able to escape. There's a probability, let's say this was the infinite well, this room. There's a probability that even though we know we should be in this room, the door is locked, is completely sealed off. There's a probability that we'll be on the other side of the wall.
That's kind of like Schrodinger's cat.
So to me, it's that is an example of where we're limited from a scientific perspective. Like we can't explain, like we know we're in this room locked. We know we can't teleport, right? We haven't figured out how to teleport from here to over there. But it's something that you see from a statistical perspective. A particle may be in here, it may be out there, even though it has no way to be out there. So it's quantum mechanics. So we don't have all the answers, and that's why we're building all of these fancy probes and things like that. Now, I do think once we finally launch JWST, which has been delayed so much, it was initially supposed to launch in like 2007, but it's like the most complex instrument we've ever built, right? And it's going to just be so powerful. Once we do launch that is going to usher in an era where it's like, we're speeding up the process of answering these questions because right now we're limited in what we can see because Hubble it's a lot of space debris and stuff like that Hubble cannot see through, but James Webb will have the capability to see through that. And like I said, 13, 15 billion years ago what happened. And so that may give us some answers, right? So I think within the next decade, we'll kind of speed up on those types of answers. But right now, you never know. I mean, you can't say it's not possible, right? We really don't know.
It's like when you say those microorganisms, I'm like, if they say that we started from, at a cellular level, then you got to think that another planet that has water may be able to supply that microorganisms to develop and continue to develop. So 10 years from now, he might be like, all right, well, there's like one fucking other planet right now.
Another thing too with carbon-based organisms, these other planets, these other systems, they might not be carbon-based. That's another thing they're looking at too. So we might look for life just like us, but it might be a whole different way they process energy and
exactly. Yeah.
So it's wild.
All right, next question. Fuckery. What?
No, go ahead.
Describe sex in zero gravity. What would it be like? What would the best sex position be? Chris, your wife.
That's a Chris's question.
All right, so you have an understanding of zero gravity and how would that affect the dirty? What was the one called the falafel waffle?
Oh, I like.
How was sex in zero gravity?
I mean, you obviously would be floating, right?
Could she catch it? Would it be harder for her to swallow?
It might be easier because it would be in a little bubble, right?
Yeah, but
she had to go get it.
But she had to like put some on the wall. And,
it would affect your stamina. Could you go longer?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an interesting question, right? So when you go into space, your skin is separating from your bones.
Oh, I didn't.
Right? Because just imagine it's really people say 0G, but it's really like a microgravity. It's like near 0G environment. That's why these astronauts have to be in such shape, because you imagine spending time in space and you don't even realize everything's lifting, right? So your skin is separating from your bones, and then when you come back down, that instantly just comes back together, and the pain from that is like serious. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's painful. That's why if you apply to astronaut school, you have to do all this special training. You have to be in shape and stuff like that. So I don't know the answer to how sex would be. I'm sure sex is good in any environment. Like, you'll find a way to make it good. You know what I'm saying? At least you'll be floating. I mean, you could do whoever knows.
Right.
But
you can do the dreidel. Spin on your motherfucker.
Yeah, man. I mean,
that would be kind of dope, though.
I was just saying right here. And there's nothing to stop her. There's nothing, so she just keep going. And y'all tied. Now my wife do the damn thing. But you tied holes out there. You can finally just do 1 or 2 pumps, and your body will just keep. No, that's not how it works. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you don't. But it's okay.
Into the EE. What y'all think about sex in zero gravity? Or not zero gravity, but close.
Well, hold on. What do you think the best sex position is? That was a 2-part question.
What would you think if you had to guess? If you had you and your wife.
Y'all had zero gravity.
And you had to do a sex position.
Well, maybe not your wife. Maybe just like that astronaut that's on base that you like that you don't. That you haven't done it yet.
Hypothetically. That's like hypothetically. Not even you. if you were suggesting that to someone else in space.
Yeah, you like 15 light years away. You're not coming back home. Like,
I gotta have some sex.
The only thing I would say is I think the best position would be the same position as here, you know.
Okay.
And that varies for each person, and you know, it's different for the man and the woman also, I'm sure. So that's my answer. You know, I'll stick to that.
I got something. Check this out.
oh shit.
He about to go off the STDs come off of your body?
What?
See, that was a Denzel question. I looked at Denzel and I said, that's what fuck he would have said. Yo, so when you in space and zero gravity, do the STDs come off your dick?
They might.
This time. I ain't got to say that. That's it.
All right. Best album of 2018 so far.
Ooh. Genre specific or just
No,
one
just
you like?
album. in
Period.
general, yeah.
All right, so it can be anything. I heard you like country music. Go ahead.
No, I like
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Kelly Clarkson's shit.
what came out this year. So right now I'm
And
bucking.
Scorpion just came out. You got
Scorpion is-
Future just came out.
You got Future.
I like the Future.
Yeah.
Future dropped a
But
mixtape.
Beast Mode 2.
too,
Beast
right?
Mode 2.
You also got
Ain't
J.
niggas
Cole, you
next
got Nas, you got Kanye,
Yeah.
or as we like to call
I
him,
like the
House
Yeezy
Slave.
album.
Big dropped the EP.
Yeezy, like the Yeezy.
But he
I
only
like
like
the
4
Yeezy.
songs with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I would vote for the Future. I'm a Future type of guy.
My nigga.
You know,
that makes sense.
Beast Mode
Cheers.
2. Beast Mode 1 was a classic. You know, Beast Mode
All
2.
Future shit.
I was bumping that on the way up when I saw
I gotta
it.
check that. I gotta
outside.
check that. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to Beast Mode 1.
What?
Really?
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's out of his time capsule now. I mean, like, if you go listen to it now, then you'll
Yeah,
probably
it's
think
dated a
it's
little bit.
outdated,
Yeah.
But, you know, when it first dropped, Beast Mode was the shit. Like, I had that shit when I first started going to the gym almost.
Correct?
Yeah, because that's, what, a few years old?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
4
Yeah.
years old, 5 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I was bumping that shit, like, getting in the zone. Like, bruh. Like, but, I've always been a Future fan. Like, when he dropped The Streets Is Calling, that was, like, one of his first mixtapes. And whatnot, and a lot of people ain't hear about him. Like, I put my brother on, like, yo, have you heard of this dude? And my brother, you know, he used to rap, so he used to listen to everybody. I mean, you talking about Cassidy, all them dudes, and everything like that. And I was like, yo, you gotta listen to the dude Future. She's like, I'm like, yo, listen to him. We ended up going down to Atlanta that same year, and then he was like, yo, that's all they played down there. So I've always been a Future fan, but I haven't heard it. But right now, I have to say the best album to me. I'm not even the biggest Nas fan, but I think his shit is right though right now. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's better than Drake shit.
Well,
because
Drake got
shit-
25 songs, yo. It's hard to...
It's
if
hard.
you dwindle those 25 down to 10, right, then any 10... Then the 10 that you wind up with is going to be better than the Nas joint. Probably,
Yeah,
right?
Probably. But I'm just saying, from Nas, from looking back, Nas, when was the last time Nas dropped an album?
2013?
2013.
What you think?
When was the last?
Yeah, 2013, 2012, something like
I
that.
thought it was like 2012, right?
Yeah.
What was it? Nomadic 2, right?
No. Let me see.
I don't know. But anyway,
No.
look, yeah, the only reason why I say that is because from the lyrics and the beats, like just how you,
The beats is good, yeah.
yeah, just how you magnify Drake and his lyricism, you know what I mean, and the beats that he supplied with, and his overall, you know, the way he's brought with his artwork, you know what I mean. Nas, he can paint a picture for you like a motherfucker.
Yeah, his last one was Life is Good. That was released 2012.
Yeah, so you got to think Nas coming back off of this whole, you know, 6 year, you know, abandonment.
Hiatus, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like now he like, all right, well, I got something to say. This is what I gotta say, and because of the beats that he put it on, and because of his lyricism, I'm like, all right, well, I gotta, you know what I mean? Pusha T shit, his shit was good, but I'm not the biggest Pusha T fan. I'm not even the biggest Nas fan, but I gotta give respect to Nas when it's due.
So we got Nas.
I still
we
think
have
Future.
Future, Nas, they
What you
said.
say? I know you're here to
Well,
the street.
hold on, I didn't say that's album.
It's a lot of-
This year, no, 2018. What was the one you bought?
Let me set the record straight. I'm gonna say Drake, okay? But I like
The
Nas
Scorpion?
shit. I like
I would
Nas
probably
shit.
actually have to say Drake over Future, but I prefer the Future. Or I love the Drake album. Don't get me wrong, but I would rather listen to Future, if that makes sense. You know?
I would rather,
and I like
if
Drake.
I heard the album, I would
yeah.
tell you the Future, but I can't say that because I haven't even listened to it. So
Yeah, the Drake album is good. It's just the singing side I don't really listen to.
Yeah, I skipped a lot.
You don't like singing?
I do.
I like old school.
that's because he's singing in the
old
bedroom.
school
So
singing.
all of us gotta listen to the shit.
So that's funny y'all say that because this is
That's
how I was
funny
thinking.
y'all say that.
All right, so
He didn't deny it.
you got
And
the Drake album, which is going to date poorly. Right now it's good this summer, but because he's talking about all of these things that happen right now, in 10 years, that's just people going to listen to it like, hold on, what the fuck's he talking about? You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't even remember that. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Daytona kind of is going to have a lasting value, I feel like. So I'm thinking rap-wise, Daytona, even though we halfway through the year, I mean, it's a lot. And then people say J-Rock's album was the shit. I can't even listen to that. I don't fucking like his voice. I don't know. I can't listen to it.
And see, I'm biased too. Like, we've been arguing on the thread. We had a group thread. Shout out to on the thread. And it's like, you know, a lot of folks trying to defend Pusha T and all that. And I feel like Drake won. You know what I'm saying? Like, Drake won the situation. I really do.
What situation?
The whole situation. Like, he was playing chess. You know what I'm saying? And people can't see that. Like, had he kept going back and forth with Pusha, he could have easily ate Pusha. Easily. Let's just be real. He could have came back. He could have ate Pusha. But if you Drake, he had like 1 billion streams.
Yo, even Drake's song that he dropped was more about Kanye than it was about Pusha.
Because Pusha, but this is what I'm saying. You have to say you can't be tricked out of your position, right? If you are Drake, right, you streaming 1 billion a week. Pusha T streamed 36,000 his first week. I'm not knocking Pusha, right? Respect to Pusha as an artist and what he's done. But if I'm Drake, am I going to let somebody pull me down to their level who's not even worth my time?
So let's to that point. That's why that's me personally. I get all the selling and all of that stuff, and you sold enough records and whatnot. But this is hip hop. This is a battle. When somebody comes for you, you know what I'm saying? Like when Nas came for Jay-Z neck, you know what I'm saying?
Jay-Z was the guy.
What about when Dipset came for Jay-Z neck? What about when J Hood came for D Block now?
And he went back at them. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But it wasn't nothing. It wasn't nothing. Yes, Jada, Sheik, and Styles went back at.
They didn't release a J Hood diss track.
No, they didn't have to though, because they did but it was all on the mixtape circuit. You know what I'm saying?
Drake,
that's the same thing for the mixtape circuit. But you heard it was like, they wasn't gonna spend publishing money to go back in.
So why would Drake?
How about this though? We are not talking about the most well-sold album of the year. We're talking about the best album, right? So right now, we can think of how many albums could have came out the year.
Subjective too.
How many albums could have came out the year Kid Cudi came out with the one
Kanye?
Not fuck that. The one that everybody's talking about. You know what I mean? His first joint, where like now it's like everybody's like, this got me through high school. This got me through this year. I don't think when that came out, I remember it was hot. You know what I mean? When College Dropout came out, it was hot. But now people look at that in a different light. It ages in such a way where. You know what I mean? Like what you felt about it. What you felt about it at that very moment ain't the same as like what you feel about it now.
Now we can't extrapolate that out now right now because
it's too early. It's
really subjective. What do you like? Like you said, he likes Drake, but he prefers to listen to Future. Right. If you're in the car, I think the question should really be, what are you going to play first?
And see, my thing is,
because we can't say 5 years from now.
So can I say? I didn't even say what my mind was because it cut me off.
My bad.
My Dear Melancholy. Well, from fucking The Weeknd, he came back to like that dark shit he was singing, like when he came out with like the trilogy and fucking House of Balloons, away from the Starboy bullshit. If you go back and listen to that shit's good, yo. And it's only 6 songs.
The Weeknd,
yeah.
Yo, we can be rocking now. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, yo.
It's one of my 8.
Listen to that shit, yo. It's not a skip. And then every song I listen to, I want to go back and just replay that one. And then when I finally go to the next one, I do the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh shit! Like all these songs, it's like the best R&B song that I've heard this year.
Right. Like we
can't get with the new school R&B. I'm
no
old school R&B. I have like you look on my iTunes, Isley Brothers, Marvin Gaye.
My man,
I'm that generation. And then I like kind of like the early 2000s, like
Drew Hill.
Yeah, Genuine. You know,
well, you're not sad, yo.
Like
you don't have like relationship problems, do you?
No.
All your shit's good.
Yeah, he about trying to love his woman.
That's what I'm saying. It's just different kind of music.
Yeah. I don't have any input.
It's just different.
I don't, my ear. But I was really into the music shit for a minute, and I kind of just took a step back to kickboxing and working out. So, I mean, right now, one of my favorite artists is Drake, Future. What a Time to Be Alive, was that the name of the album, that mixtape? That was pretty cool. That's 2018. 2017. So, yeah, I rock that heavy. Migos, I think they should be an honorable mention in there because Culture 1 and 2.
Culture 2 wasn't that.
I liked it. I like Culture 2 too. I don't know if I liked it more than one, but
Culture 2 is one song over about 20.
See, I understand too. It's more about what I'm doing, so I'm not using those artists to really dig in and articulate them. Those are just energy. So I'm driving the car, I got 8 hours to burn. I'm just turning something on to keep me the fucking way. I'm in the gym and I'm trying to get turned up. I'm looking for production. And I don't want to listen. I'm like, damn, I got to listen to the words. I got 300 pounds on my fucking chest. So, like I said, I kept saying it's subjective. It's like really what you want at a specific time and place.
That is true.
Mind you, I haven't listened to a whole catalog 2018, if like the last 5 years. So right now it's between Migos and Drake. And I'd probably go Migos Culture 1. Was that 2018?
That came in like 2016.
So Culture 2. Give me 20.
Culture 2. Culture 2 is good, but it's like
Fry. You got
I'm a big ass Migos fan. I think
Block Boy JB album on the low is better than the Migos album though. That's the crazy thing.
I'm really gonna have to listen to it.
Listen
right
to that
now,
joint, yeah.
Migos 2, like literally in my whole moving process, I've listened to Zaytoven's Trap Holiday. I've listened to Drake Scorpion. I've listened to Pusha T shit. I haven't listened to Kanye
yo,
shit.
Please listen to Block Boy, yo.
I put on Culture 2, bro, and I've unpacked half my house.
No skips.
It go.
Like,
Really.
I feel like I can put on track 1 and I can let that shit play.
That's how Block Boy JB joint is, yo. If you listen to that, and first of all, because if we was having a party, right, we had a fucking cookout, you can play that shit, you can run that shit through. If you're in the gym, you working out, you can run that shit through. You're in a car, you driving, you trying to get to your destination, you can run it. It's one of them joints where it's like, it's not too much of exactly this that it can't be that as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, real quick on that whole diss shit too, yo, I think Drake got one in the pocket, and when Jay Prince told him not to,
that's exactly what happened.
I think that shit could have went.
You ain't gotta think about it. Jay Prince went on air. Listen, and it wasn't a pushing. This is how it went. This is background knowledge. Perfect segue. Drake went over to Kanye. You know, when you're at the top, you can only share with your peers, right? You can't go to everybody. So he went to Kanye, and they do like writing shit like that back and forth. He let him hear some of the tracks. Supposedly Kanye knew about the baby shit before anyone else did. Mm-hmm. Somehow Kanye leaked to the Pusha. So he wasn't even mad at Pusha. If you my mans and I tell you some crazy shit that happened to me, and then you tell it to him and he put it out, he a sucker for putting it out, but I came to you and cried on your shoulder. Suppose that's what happened about it. And Jay Prince said he heard the fucking diss and he was going to destroy Kanye. So if it was him fucking one of his girls or Kanye did something that never got out, I think he fucked more than Kim.
I think he fucked Pusha's wife too.
And it might be some dirt.
He probably didn't.
That's why he got so mad. All he did was say, "Put a ring around you," like that's all he said.
If you listen to
but him and Pusha, see the reason why
he loved Pusha.
The beef goes back to 2003 when apparently. The Clips and Baby did what happened to that boy. And Baby never paid Pharrell for that beat or for the song. You know what I'm saying? And that was Baby's only single that went gold. So apparently since then, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Me Too.
I didn't hear about that.
Mr. Me Too was essentially the Clips dissing Lil Wayne after he had dissed him on the dedication earlier that summer. You know what I'm saying? So this is still the going back and forth. It's basically what it's evolved.
It's been bubbling.
Young Money, Cash Money, to Pusha T versus Drake. But I think it's one of those things where, like, when you have an enemy for long enough, you know everything you need to know about them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you make that your business.
But hold up. Real quick, let me intervene one time. So not only about the whole Jay Prince thing, right? But there's a couple of songs and a couple of mentions or just like little, I think they're sneak disses, or if you want to call them that Drake has on his album where he's taking some shots.
Oh, you can hear it. You gotta go back and listen.
The
whole side A.
Right. So this reminds me of what happened with Nicki and Remy? I mean, they say that Remy bodied Nicki, right? With the Sheetha, right?
Absolutely.
Yo, but then what happened? Nicki dropped 2 songs back to back, right? Said we don't make diss records. We make hit songs and diss you on them. So if you're talking about at the pinnacle of,
do you remember what Nicki's songs were after that?
Yeah,
song?
you talking about Chung-Li
and Fraud.
That wasn't Chung-Li. Chung-Li.
No, it was changed. It was changed.
No Fraud.
It was changed up. Changed up, and it was Fraud.
No Fraud was a terrible
song. Somebody said
No
in response to No Fraud, they said they got a fake Jamaican a fake model and a fake blood.
Nikki missed Safari.
Talking about everybody else's no frauds.
All right, so now we got time thing. I don't want to kill it too much.
Oh, we done.
No, Future, J. Cole. You saying Black Boy? I mentioned J. Cole.
That was this year?
Yeah. Black Boy. You talking about Black Boy, Drake? Those are pretty much.
Yeah, I gotta say Black Boy for rap.
All right,
Black Boy for rap.
Let's get to the next topic.
All right,
No.
because we done the hell out of that shit.
That was it. That was it.
We gotta wrap it
All right,
up.
so look. First of all, we want to thank you for coming on. You're doing good work out. You're doing great work. Please keep us with any kind of updates you got going on. Give them your handles, anything you want to tell them before you leave, and we'll close up.
Yeah, no, I mean, just honored to be here. I appreciate it. I enjoyed myself. Y'all are crazy, man. Again, Instagram, it's Keep It Caleb, and Facebook, Miquel Moe, Miquel, last name Moe, M-O-E. So,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you ever think about going into politics eventually?
No. Nah.
Yeah, you gonna answer.
I mean just.
Go ahead. Ask him these last two questions.
No, I think we done with questions. We're gonna follow his first cue. You want to give them the sign out of what they can follow and all that?
All right, make sure y'all follow Denzel Skywalker over there.
Skywalker.
Whoop whoop.
Oh,
Then we got Nicky Nick on the IG. I'm MG2 Fit. We got my man Tyreek, aka Soldiers back.
Yo, don't y'all want to know what Steve look like?
No, he's not Steve. He's Tyreek.
All right.
All right. So make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and Not Safe for Ears. Make sure you get us email us any questions at notsafeforears@gmail.com. Make sure you download us on iTunes at Not Safe for Ears. Make sure you look us up on SoundCloud, Spotify. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel. You can click in any one of our bios. Click the link in there, hit subscribe, and then you can even turn on the notifications. It's going to let you know when we come on. So I hope you motherfuckers turned y'all on from the last time I cut y'all out.
Yep.
But make sure y'all get us any kind of feedback. We will, questions, anything y'all need, anything, let us know, whatever the case may be. Man, we're going to sign out. Thanks for coming on. Thank you.